G'day, hi and welcome. Okay, let's get this thing settled. Get me settled. Get my buttocks onto the chair. So, 20 after 10, not bad. So I went to the library already, brought back a book. Finally brought a book back. There we go. This Week in World Crazy, take 3. But before we get into it, the most important news of the world I gotta tell you. Last night, I caught a third flying squirrel at prime my sight. It's the end of it. I come back home, I get in my bed, I start writing my story, my novel, and I look up, top of the shelf, flying squirrel, hey! What's up? He jumps down, he comes like, maybe about from here to me away, he's looking at me, hey, you got anything? I'm looking for stuff, I know I'm making a lot of noise, trashing the shit out of the place, but hey, yeah. So I got another one. Yeah. I think I caught Charlie last night. So Charlie, and then there's Bartholomew. He was running around last night. So I know I got another one in there for sure. So that's like 4. There must be a whole nest of them up there. We were all watching one. He was in the kitchen. He was running around the spice rack. They stayed pretty close to, but he'd run around the bread thing. And he'd come up on top of the bread thing, look at us, and then he was just running all over the place. Oh, they're cute, but oh man, they were a nuisance, I tell you. They're funnier than the red squirrels. They can climb like you wouldn't believe. You can hear them going up the walls, and then you hear them, whatever. And so. If they weren't so noisy, they'd be an awesome little pet for sure. If they weren't so noisy, jumping around, knocking things over, and they don't really seem to tear up that much, but they're just thrashing around, making so much noise. Trying to sleep, and you're crash bang. They jump on your head, and then they zip away. And I tell you. So that's where that's at. Okay, so. How do I approach this? Okay, I made my 2026 predictions on Boxing Day in 2025, right? And holy crap, like half of them have come true. It's like, holy shit. So we've had the attempted assassination of Putin. We've had New Year's Eve, like 40 people burned to death in a freaking Swiss fire because some ass clown was basically firing fireworks in the bar. Again, Black Christmas, here we go, right? I told you guys that January and February would just be like the news cycle would just make your head spin, right? Everything we experienced the past 10 years, like in 2 months, kind of thing, right? And yeah, so far it doesn't disappoint, does it? Like, are you not entertained already? We have Muslims running around New Year's Eve attacking people all over Europe. We had Christmas market attacks. A few people killed. We had churches burnt down. They've been burning churches down all week. That's going on. What else was there? There was a few other things I wanted to cover for this week in the world. There's just so much of it, right? The big story, obviously. Okay, Putin's out there, like, for example, Putin, I'll just, he's basically telling Europe, look, we don't want to go to war with you, but if you want to go, we're ready to go. Basically that's what he's saying, right? The attempt on Putin is now going to have, like, one of the, like, every time you hear, like, of the largest drone strike or cruise missile strike, whatever, it gets one up, like every kind of few months from like some sort of escalation, right? So Putin is basically saying that no, we're not going to deal with the Zelensky anymore. It will deal with the Americans, and that's it. If they're actually serious about like, Putin knows that the Americans don't want peace. I mean, they again, NATO is going to fight the Russians to the last Ukrainian. Like, it's the plan I've been telling you about since day one. That's how that's. I think it should be obvious by now. or you can go with the company line if you want. But like, I mean, just look at it for what it is, and how can you draw a different conclusion, right? That said, massive protests in Iran. I'm sure they're backed by Mossad and CIA. They always are. But the thing is that it usually doesn't work. Even the Mossad has had to admit that you can't subvert Iran with a color revolution, because the Iranians are really quick to stomp that stuff out. They usually, what they do, it's a very simple plan for them, what they do. And I'm not a fan of the Iranian regime, but I don't want to go to war. We are at war with them. It's just, it's a strange, it's kinetic on and off, right? So, because you can't just steamroll Iran easily. Iran is a very powerful nation to fight. And I know a lot of people don't think so, but like, Iran is, of all the third world countries, one thing about Iran is that they're actually developing their own missiles. Yeah, they're reversed engineered Chinese, North Korean, and Russian technology. That's nothing new there. But they do advance the stuff. And, of course, old U.S. technology as well. Such like the Phoenix missile, for example, the AIM-54. They've made their version of it, and it actually has a longer range, right? And these things, even by today's standards, are still pretty deadly. You know what I mean? Like, they can kill targets up to 140 miles away. That's pretty freaking far. So they've got air defenses, they've got all this stuff. But when it comes to the protests, what the Iranians normally do is they just find who's organizing the protest, and they just, like, they arrest them, kill them, whatever. They usually kill them, because there's a 1 in 2 chance that they're going to kill a CIA, Mossad agent, or if it's not them, they kill they chop the head off of the resistance, right? But they have to do it without martyring people. But yeah, apparently, like, it's hard to get footage and stuff out of there. Like, YouTube is no good for footage anymore. Like, it really isn't, because it's only whatever the narrative is allowed, right? So it's hard to find other sites where you can find good footage, like live leaks and all that stuff. But you don't really need unless you want to binge watch, like, the gory details, you don't really need to. Like the drone footage of people getting killed in the Ukraine, do you really need to watch that? You know what I mean? It's horror. I've seen some of it, and it's fucking horrific. You know what I mean? Like, it's so bad. But that said, yeah, we'll see where that goes. Look, every time Netanyahu meets with Trump, you get a new war, pretty much, right? And of course, I guess the big thing to talk about, I might dabble in and out of other topics throughout this, but the big one is obviously, again, another prediction. I don't know how many predictions I got right so far, but it's quite a few. So Venezuela has been finally attacked officially. But however, like, I know all the Trump cheerleaders, like, oh, this is great, all the neocons. But the freaking flip-flops you're seeing in people, all these people that voted for Trump to be a true anti-war president, which in his first term he was. He didn't start any new wars whatsoever in his first term. This one, mask off right away. Now, mind you, he did do attacks in his first term, but he didn't start any new wars. Now he's starting a new war, another forever war. And no, it's not going to go according to plans. This is the Iraq plan over pretty much basically the same. Yeah, they've dressed up the pretext a little differently, but they didn't put much time on it. They just went right for it. And there's a reason for that, because this is an act of desperation. A lot of people don't say, oh no, our military kicked ass and we didn't take any losses and stuff like that. Yeah, isn't that kind of suspicious that you didn't take any losses at all? Geez, that's kind of strange. Oh, it's because we're so good. No. I've got a good idea of what the Venezuelan military has and doesn't have. And if they were utilizing what they had, you would have lost every aircraft, at least every helicopter. You should have lost every helicopter. They were taken by surprise, not because the U.S. was so good, but the obvious. Obviously, people got paid off. Maduro got sold out. That's what it is. Or he's in on it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, make it look good. Come and get me. I'm going to sell out my country. Come and get me. You know what I mean? We'll probably never know, but it doesn't really matter. The whole thing, again, whether you like this or not, for all you people that were anti-war and against George Bush and against Obama's stuff and all the stuff that Biden did, whatever, and now you're giving the same people talking about for Elon Musk, Tulsi Gabbard. I don't think she's flipped yet, but it sounds like she might have. So now she's a neocon. You know what I mean? The usual suspects like your people that don't matter, like Mark Levine and Ben Shapiro. Those people don't matter. They really don't matter. They're always pro-war. Lindsey Graham, always pro-war. Yeah, he's a horrible fucking human being. John Bolton, or whatever we call him, Bolton, or yeah, he's always for war every time, right? Yeah, they're neocons, right? The investor class, they're all neocons. They don't care who they kill, right? As long as they make money. And that's part of it. The money is a part of it, but empire is the bigger part of it. And it's Anglo-American Empire versus Eurasian Pacific Empire. It's not good guy versus bad guy. They're all bad guys. Trump is he's just as bad as Putin. Putin's just as bad as him. Just as bad as Biden. Just as bad as the list goes on and on and on. Right? So while this is going on, obviously the Netherlands has taken major notice of this, especially when the delegate ambassador or whatever puts out a Twitter post of Greenland in the American flag, right? Again, Trump is in a Napoleonic Stalinistic state right now for empire. He doesn't know what to do. So who they're really fighting directly is China. Like Venezuela is the stepping stone to hurting China. And most people don't understand this. A lot of people do, but to what level, right? Everybody can get so much information, but when you really track it, what it is about the Monroe Doctrine 2.0. Steve Bannon basically spelled it all out in plain English. That if you want to know what Trump is thinking, just go listen to what Steve Bannon said. And yes, all these guys that were libertarians and anti-war, something. Oh yeah, but we got rid of a dictator. You know what I mean? Okay, I get they have to do that. Why? Because their guy betrayed them, and it's like, well, we got to make him look like a good guy, or else I look like an idiot that got fooled, right? Well, you got fooled. You just got to accept that there are no good guys. It's mob bosses fighting. Nobody can understand this. Why did Trump go after Maduro for drugs and not pardon the leader in Honduras who's known for drug running, right? He's a known mob boss, cartel guy. Why did he get? It doesn't make sense. Yes, it does if you understand it as mob bosses fighting. This is the acceptable mob boss. The CIA likes this guy. They like his drugs because they're making money off of it. Maduro's not giving you a slice of the pie. You overthrow him. You don't have to overthink this one. It's not complicated, guys. It is really that lowbrow. These people, they don't have depth. They're evil. That's all. Apparently, one U.S. I don't know if it was a Navy captain or whatever. I'll have to get more details, but did the right thing. We have one good U.S. soldier out of the entire U.S. military. One honest man who said, no, I'm not going to take part in blowing these boats out of the water because it's against international law. Now, international law means nothing if you can't actually enforce it. I get that. But the thing is that all the Trump cheerleaders, you have to understand, you are now neocons. You are not MAGA. You are not Make America Great Again. You are not America First. You are Zionist neocons. And yes, the new boss, the same as the old boss. They got rid of Maduro, who was anti-Israel, pro-Catholic, anti-LGBT, all that stuff. So all the progressives hated him. But he was more, which would make him more like a Stalinist style. Not like, again, when I say Stalin, like I'm not talking Iron Fist Stalin. I'm talking cultural Stalin, who was nationalist. And again, this is not a ringing endorsement of Maduro. It's just what he was. He wasn't going to go with the LGBT stuff. The propaganda is so bad. Okay, first off, if you get a video and there's an AI in it, right? giving you the news, just shut it off. If it's especially if it's like Piston Pundit or something like that, don't even fuck it up. I hate that AI voice so much. And the guy, yeah, I just hate that guy's voice. I really do. Uh, all these like little side note here. All like whenever you hear like an automated service or something like that, it's like 5 or 10 people around the planet that actually do these voice recordings. There's one girl, she does like almost every voice recording you could possibly imagine. One girl for like almost the entire planet. It's crazy. And of course, they get this guy with the worst freaking. Oh, his voice just drives me nuts. But if you hear the AI, like all that stuff is propaganda. Like 90% of it is. We're gonna go with my grandfather's rules. Leave nothing of what you hear and only half of what you see. And even at that might be, who knows, right? But like Elon Musk, who was anti-war and praising Trump as an anti-war president, now is okay with getting rid of dictators. The list goes on and on and on and on. The hypocrisy on the right is just absolutely appalling. You are not right wing. You are just a neocon. Go fuck off. There is no justification for what he did. I understand the people that are lowbrow and it's like, yeah, but he was running drugs and stuff. Okay, the fentanyl wasn't coming from Venezuela. It comes from Mexico. And the Chinese are big on that one. It's mainly coming out of China, and it goes to Mexico, and then it comes up to the States. It's mainly cocaine that comes out of Venezuela. But even at that, it's not justification to basically ransack a country. And like Trump, one thing about Trump is he's giving it to you on the chin. At least he's honest enough, or cares so. He's like this is kind of like you see this with Zionists typically. They have so little respect for you that they'll just tell you the truth. That yeah, no, we're doing this because we want to, and this is like what are you going to do about it, right? Spoken like a true psychopath, right? So it's like, yeah, no, we're going in there to steal the oil. But why are you going in there to steal the oil? Well, it comes back to what I said. Now, I know there's a lot of Canadians out there that are like, oh no, Canada just lost all its leverage. And it's what I've been saying is because the Canadian economy and the U.S. economy are so intertwined, Trump is starting to finally figure out that you can't just flick switches and shut things off and kill the Canadian economy just so he can take them over. It won't work like that. The Americans only have one option to take over Canada, and that's brute force military. They won't be successful with it, but they're going to try it because everything else is going to fail. Why? Because if you shut off the Canadian factory, it's probably an American factory in Canada that you just shut off. You just basically hurt your own guys. It's the boomerang effect, right? And this is what, like I say, you could think of the U.S. like a tumor grafted to a smaller tumor called Canada. And that would explain the Canadian-American economy to a T, right? Everything is just so fucking interlinked. That's why, like, you put tariffs on one thing and it ricochets back and forth 10 times, and suddenly something that's only supposed to have one tariff on it ended up having 8 tariffs on it because stuff crisscrossing the border, right? To the point where, like, even stuff like booze, for example, Jim Beam has had to close down its factories for a year because of the loss of sales from Canada. They basically lost, the booze industry in the U.S. has taken a big hit. It has to downsize. It's not out of business, but it has to downsize. Why? Because they lost the number one, like, Canadians per capita drink more than anybody else in the world. I don't know what, this is not a thing I'm bragging about, but for some reason, we are the number one consumers of alcohol in the world. Like, how is that possible? You know what I mean? Like, it's just ridiculous, right? Says the guy who's like building a liquor cabinet. A guy who doesn't hardly drink and he's building a liquor cabinet. Why am I doing this? You know what I mean? Like, just cause, just cause. But anyway, the point is that, yeah, Canada's benefited big time from that. Like, our wine and spirits and industries like that are like just rocketing. Same like the tourism industry. It's failing big time in the States, and it's about to completely collapse. The world boycotts that are going to come out of this Venezuelan war is going to cost the American public a lot. Right, just out of the boycotts, nobody's going to, like, it's too dangerous to go to America because America is now like it's a rogue nation. It's not even a dictatorship. It's just a rogue nation that's just lashing out, attacking people. This is why the people in the can't think of her name there, the prime president or prime minister of the Netherlands is like, we're an independent country. No matter what happens, we're gonna, like they're scared. They're scared. I do believe the Nordic Alliance is going to start to rally around Greenland, and us Canadians will probably be in on it too. I think what Trump's going to do is he's not going to basically do a Red Dawn like you saw in Venezuela, but he's probably going to send like 14 to 20,000 U.S. troops to Greenland, saying, "What are you going to do about it? This is ours now. What are you going to do about it?" He's going to do something like that. The international community. The Americans are going to lose more influence than anything. They already have. They're on the way out. It's what I've been saying for years. Even Trump has had to admit this. It's just he's too stupid to realize that he has to go the other way. He's trying the might makes right approach, where China, it's very simple how they've conquered the world. They haven't had to fire a shot. Why? The Chinese aren't stupid. They know might makes right, sure, to a degree, but if you kill people with kindness, you'll make 10 times more money. So what do? Well, where the United States, with the petrodollar, basically it goes like this. And Max Kaiser, I think, when he summed it up as a death and debt-based economy, that's what the Americans have. That's what they've had pretty much since the end of World War II. So it goes like this. You take our petrodollar, or we drop democracy JDAMs on you. And that's exactly what's happened. And for the U.S. sphere of influence, they're going to lose it. Like it's the idea of this whole Monroe Doctrine 2.0 thing, or manifest destiny, whatever you want to call it, American exceptionalism, whatever you want to call it. It fails every time they try this because you can't bully people into doing what you want for long. They'll either rise up or just boycott, right? So what Trump is saying, that we're going to control every country in the Northern Hemisphere. We'll tell you who you can sell to and who you can't sell to and all this stuff. And it's like, it's just, like the United States is about to go to war with about 40 to 45 different countries, physically and economically. It's already at over 100 countries that's at war economically. So like Gerald Celente says, currency war, trade war, shooting war. So Trump is starting the shooting war phase. He's going to attack Canada at some point. I still think it's going to be a little bit... It could happen sooner than I thought. I'm thinking near year's end around the Great Lakes or up in the Arctic by the Northwest Passage. This is where Trump is going to start to make a move. He's going to put warships up there. He's going to do that kind of stuff. It's very predictable what he's going to do because they're saying that's what they're going to do, right? But that said... if countries are smart and they start mobilizing now, you're going to see a mobilization like we've never seen before in South America. Now, the next country I think he might actually attack, believe it or not, might be Cuba or Iran or Cuba simultaneously. So the thing is that Maduro, okay, all these people, well, he's a dictator and he needs to go to hell and we did a good thing. Okay, nobody's giving praise to Maduro, okay? And it's all these, this is what I hate about partisan channels. All these people that are against the removal of Maduro, and then they show all these protests in Venezuela. Look at all these people celebrating and a couple of people that from Venezuela going, yeah, we wanted this, blah, 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 blah. We wanted them gone. We've been begging for it for like decades, right? Okay, well, show the other side then. For as many people as you have praising this in Venezuela, you have probably the same amount saying this was a bad thing, you attacked our fucking country, you cocksuckers. You know what I mean? Like that. It's again, these partisan channels drive me nuts because they're intellectually dishonest. No, it's a mixed bag. There's as many people happy about it down there, and there's many people that are not. And a lot of innocent people got killed in these air strikes. So there's about 150 aircraft. And something like 15,000 personnel that went to do this, right? To go kidnap. Literally, they kidnapped the leader. Like, that's like a first. It's like, I don't even know what to make of that one. I was like, that's crazy. It was impressive. Don't get me wrong. It was impressive, but it was so illegal. The U.S. has a pirate navy. It's the freighter wars have been going on for a little while now. The Houthis, they've quieted down, but I think the Houthis are about to give Venezuela a boost in anti-shipping missiles. Watch for it. They're good at, There's a lot of countries, South American countries now that are coming up. Like everybody's picking their words carefully, right? But they're showing their colors of what side they're on. So South American countries, I think, are going to rally around Venezuela for the most part. You'll have a few that won't. Whatever. You also have to understand, like, the Venezuelan attack was an attack against China and Russia because you're cutting off China's oil supply. It's an attack against Alberta in Canada, even though the 51st Staters and the Maple Magas, like, that's mostly American propaganda trying to sway people into that. But it's like what I said. The idea is if they can get, because Venezuela and Alberta have the same type of oil, right? So Trump is thinking is this: we're going to take the oil from there. We have one of the largest oil supplies in the world, if not the largest oil supply in the world. We'll bring it to our factory. We'll ship it to, the Gulf of Mexico and take it to Texas and have it, in those Canadian refineries down there, which Trump is probably going to seize those refineries on us after he gets rid of Kuzma. So basically what Trump has said that, because back in the 1970s, Venezuela commandeered, their oil as natural resources, and because they weren't pumping enough oil to keep the United States happy, it was reason for regime change, right? It's like this one is so openly admitted stuff, right? But again, what are you going to do about it when you have all those fucking goons going, I'm just following orders? You know what I mean? I have no respect for the U.S. military right now whatsoever. They have shamed themselves. They know it's like everybody knows this is an illegal war. There was every rule has been broken. You say, yeah, but the bad guy, the deep state doesn't play by the rules. Well, Trump is the deep state, just so you know. He's just the other side of it. There's, again, mob bosses fighting. There's the Mr. Global is a hard person to figure out who they are, because it's really the investor class, the big donors, as you can see. This is all about big oil getting in there to take over, hostile takeover of somebody else's resources. When Trump says these are our resources, they stole our resources. Well, why wasn't this an issue for the last past 30, 40, 50 years? You know what I mean? And suddenly it's an issue now. It's a bullshit. Anything Trump is saying is pretty much bullshit. And again, the man, I don't know how anybody could still have the hopium or whatever and follow this man. You have to be evil to follow what he's doing. If Joe Biden did this, or Obama did this, you would be screeching bloody murder, and rightfully so. But it's okay when our guy does it? No, it's not okay when our guy does it. Because you have to understand, if you support that, when the shoe goes on the other foot and it starts happening to you, don't you bitch and whine that, hey, they came and stole our resources. Hey, our military got wiped out. Hey, they killed our people. Hey, they're fighting back. Hey, we don't like this. Well, you reap what you sow. Israel's finding this out. Oh, yes, let's speak about Israel. Israel, of course, the new leader is very pro-Israel. Maduro wasn't, right? And Israel's going to be getting a lot of oil out of this for free, right? On the U.S. taxpayers' dime, of course. But, you know what I mean? So don't ever tell me this is about the women and children and democracy and all that and freedom and liberty. We're liberating the Venezuelans. No, you're not. No, you're not. Who believes that? Who fucking believes that you're liberating the Venezuelans? The new lady was Maduro's right hand man, so to speak. And it's just, she sold him out. That's it. People that you really think they could have snatched Maduro without the help of the Venezuelan military? I don't think so. How would they know what to hit exactly when to hit? U.S. intelligence is not that good. This was basically a coup. Basically a coup with the assist of the U.S. military. Now go try that in Iran. Go try what they did the other night in Iran. Good luck with that. Would they try it? No, because they know that every helicopter would be shot down in 5 minutes. You would not have the element of sneak surprise. The reason why this was pulled off so without a hitch is because the parts of the Venezuelan military clearly betrayed Maduro. They got paid off, whatever. I mean, it's a corrupt society. I'm not beating on Venezuelan people, but it is what it's South America. This is not coups are not that uncommon. You know what I mean? You see it all over Africa. You see it all over South America. It's not new, right? Money. You pay enough people, but will the Venezuelan people be in such better hands now? No, all the Pierre Poilievre. I mean, he really fucked up the other night. He's normally a smart guy. Yes, I voted for him, whatever. But jumping on the Trump bandwagon. If there's anything to not do, is that. Like even Starmer, as bad as Starmer, who Maduro had a higher public approval rating than Starmer. What does that tell you, right? Yeah, Maduro. Yeah. Again, they don't show the crowds of people where he's walking with no armed guards or whatever, and all the crowds of people. And half these crowds that you're seeing, these are like soccer World Cup stuff. Some of them are from Chile. They're not even in Venezuela. So take that with a grain of salt before you get. Oh look, we're winning! Look at all the people. The Venezuelans are so happy now. No, you show the Venezuelans in the hospital. Civilians that got hit in these strikes, and how many of them were killed. You know what I mean? Like show all these people that were just brutalized, right? Oh, we can't show you that because that doesn't look good on us. Well, it shouldn't look good on you. It's fucking murder, right? Again, this is not international law. The U.S. is using its Navy as a pirate Navy. You know what I mean? And if you're going to go with the might make rights, you have to understand at some point, look, we saw this in World War II. Germany was at the height of its power too. Now, take what you want out of World War II. Yes, it didn't have to happen. All wars are bankers' wars. Now all wars are basically everything comes back to Israel at some point, right? This is, again, openly admitted stuff. It's not anti-Semitism. It's just this is what they're doing. Yeah, Germany was a powerhouse too. Until 16 nations ganged up on it. You know what I mean? Now, the United States, you're going to have about 45 nations ganging up on it. You know what I mean? Like when Trump attacks, well, first off, my prediction of Trump getting assassinated is probably going to happen sooner than probably the end of the year. I'm not calling for it, but I don't see how we don't get it. So overnight, you had like 70 protests countrywide, and God knows how many there is today. In the United States, of course, it's mostly the left, right? The thing I hate about Trump the most is that he's made the left seem reasonable. The whole reason why, but again, the only way out is through. Try not to take it too personal, but it's like Pierre Poilievre just basically killed the Conservative Party by endorsing this. Oh, we're getting rid of dictators. Like that staunch 1950s staunch conservative, angry conservative thing. It doesn't sell anymore. People don't want that. Now, Owen Sawyer, he put out a really good. He said something really good. He goes, here's Trump talking about how they're liberated Venezuela and they're going to basically make Venezuela great again. Everybody, it's going to be puppy dogs and rainbows. And we're going to do all this wonderful stuff for Venezuela. We're going to have boots on the ground. We're going to stay there and run Venezuela until it gets back on its feet, blah, blah, blah. And we're going to do all this great stuff at, the American taxpayers' cost, of course. And it's like, okay, what about the Americans? Like, what about all the Americans that don't have health care? What about all the Americans that don't have a home with the economy, the inflation? You need to go gallivanting around the world doing a completely unnecessary war. You want to stick it to China? Okay, fine. Just don't do business with them. You know what I mean? But again, where America blows up bridges, China builds bridges. And that's why China has influence everywhere, is because they're a better partner. So the attack on Venezuela is an attack on China. It also is designed to, cut off Iran, China, and Cuba. And again, will the United States attack Cuba next? I have a hunch that they're going to. Because the Cubans, they were helping the Venezuelans. And Cuba, I mean, they could have some Cold War surprises that we're not aware of. in the form of missiles, right? So you start doing airstrikes in Cuba, you could see missiles hitting Florida for sure. And then what are we going to blame the Cubans? We say, oh well, we got to get even with them because they attacked us. Retaliatory attacks are, like, I mean, what happened to all the Americans that freedom and liberty, pursuit of happiness, all that stuff, and sovereign nations? Like, what happened to sovereign nations? Oh, but they stole our oil. They dealt drugs to us. It's like neocons will find any excuse to murder people, and like it's like either you're anti-war or you're not. And I'm just like, how could anybody support Trump at this point? He's done everything opposite of what you hired him to do. Did you hire him to go into Venezuela? No, you did not. That's not about you. That's about the big investor class making money. It's just absolutely crazy what's going on, right? And again, complete violations of international law, but also complete violations of U.S. law. So again, the one thing about this that Trump has set the precedence for is that there's no rule of law, right? We're allowed to do whatever we want because we say so. So Trump right now is like basically can be charged with crimes against humanity. He can be charged again, like it's, if a bunch of nations group together and grow a backbone and say, yeah, we're going to be arresting you if you come here. You know what I mean? Right now, people are going to be, okay, well, we can't take down the United States now, but what we can do is boycott their products. We can do this. We do move our production away. So with Alberta, right, its main thing right now is, and I don't know what Daniel Smith is going to say about this. Again, all the people that are praising these strikes, like the people that have like rational minds, like, okay, yeah, I'm no fan of Maduro, but we just attacked a sovereign nation that wasn't attacking us. Again, blowing those boats out of the water. Oh yeah, but those were drug dealer boats. Okay, well, what drugs were on the boat? How much drugs were on the boat? What are the names of the people that you killed? Don't know? Yeah, that's called piracy. You stole the freighters. Now, mind you, the freighter wars are just going to kick up. Every freighter that gets stolen by the United States pirate navy is going to get countered on, they're going to steal your or sink your freighters too. This is not a good thing that is done. It's not a good thing. It's not going to be good for the Venezuelans. Every time you get a new Venezuelan leader, there's always the promises of fixing everything and all that, and it never happens. And that's up to the Venezuelans to figure that out for themselves. That's not up to the West to do that for them. Again, what happened to all these libertarians that were okay with having sovereign nations? Suddenly, he was a dictator, so therefore, okay, well, maybe we should take Kim Jong-un next. No, why? Because they have nukes and they'll fucking fire back at you? Oh, yeah. So let's take a nation that has something that we strategically need and want, and we'll just steal it from them because we know we can buy off enough people to be able to pull off the mill. You better believe the second time the Americans go back, it's going to be Bay of Pigs 2.0. The Venezuelan people, yes. The military guys, you're going to see a civil war break out in Venezuela. Why? Because all the guys that betrayed Maduro, okay, there's going to be just as many soldiers that were for Maduro. This is South America. This always happens. You get rid of a police chief, suddenly you've got vigilante groups, shooting at each other. All of South America is like that already. You know what I mean? Again, people on the work. But everyone wants to take this cheerleader that we did the right thing. It's like, fuck no. Not even close. And the thing is, and this is the big thing, okay? So Trump's idea is to collapse the Canadian economy. And the best is to collapse the oil sector. So then they could cut that off, say, well, we don't need Canadian oil anymore. And that's going to be a big hit to Alberta. That's going to be a huge hit to Alberta. Now, the potash that Venezuela, there's like 4 suppliers of potash in the world, and Venezuela is one of us. We're the largest. It's us, Russia, Venezuela, and I believe China does a bit. But Like we're the number one in the potash, right? Um, and the thing is if they can cut off the potash from Canada to the United States, again, like Trump is at war with us. Like, I mean, according to the U.S. government, Canada is considered a hostile nation. You know what I mean? Like, this is already, like, this is what I'm telling you. We're going to war with the Americans, not because we want to, because the American administration wants to. And why? Because Canada is the number one resource country in the world. We have everything in spades. We may not have the most of every one thing. We have 20% of the world's fresh water, just that alone. You know what I mean? There's no other nation that has anything close to that, not even the States. Not even Russia. You know, like Russia has a lot. Russia is probably the second most resource rich country in the world, followed by the United States. But the United States doesn't have as many resources as Russia and Canada do. We're the lottery. So I still say when the Americans attack, they're going to attack probably around the Great Lakes first. Trump is going to try to move the border there. That's the best guess. That's where we're going to see the first incident of Canadians and Americans shooting at each other. I don't want to see this, but this is what Trump wants and his administration wants. So the thing is will we be smart and maybe mobilize before the Americans decide to attack? That's probably the smartest thing we could do. We should probably learn from Finland. You know what I mean? And the Ukraine. So day one, when the tanks roll across and the helicopters start flying, shoot them all down. Just fucking go to 0 to 10, and then artillery the other side of the border. Any sort of staging areas. Just don't pull a Ukraine. Okay, we're gonna wait a year and a half before we start fucking hitting Moscow. You know, they hit them right away. Like, take it to 10. Take it to 10. Because if you don't, you're going to lose waiting out. So it's just hit everything right away. Like, full fucking scorched earth. That's the only way you can win that. Now, mind you, when we go to the full war, it'll take you have to understand, the war between Canada and the United States is probably going to be about 30 years long. The United States is going to lose about 150 million people to 200 million people in this. We're going to lose all but maybe about 4 or 5 million people, maybe 8 million people will survive, who knows. We're going to win, and we're going to take most of the northern United States. I know a lot of people don't see it that way. Like, oh, our military is so much bigger. It has nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that at all. It's all about strategy. It's all about topography. It's all about, if Canada fights a defensive war and we're dug in, like, we have very similar technology to the United States, just not as much. But that said, it's the sabotage wars that really kill everybody, like the derailing trains. And you're about to see the Venezuelans do terror attacks probably in the States in like large numbers. So if you're on a train, keep your wits about you. If you're in a mall, if you're anywhere public, keep your wits about you. Keep your head on a swivel, because payback's a bitch. You reap what you sow. You attack another country. Again, people are going to, there's already, I think it was in Germany, there was like a left-wing attack. They took out a power grid for about a week there. It'll be another couple of days before they get power back. This is what you have to look forward to in the States because, well, you're attacking people that you don't need to be attacking. Again, there's no justification for it. So either, again, all these people that we're going to vote for Trump because he's going to be an anti-war president, and now you're going to give him, because he took out a dictator. Well, then you could say the same thing about George Bush with Saddam. That was a fake war too. But I think what's going to happen, the veterans are mad. That I can tell you that the pulse on that is they're very furious. They're like, we voted against this. You know what I mean? And here you are doing another neocon regime change. This is the most politically dangerous thing Trump could have done to himself. I do believe he's going to be assassinated by a MAGA veteran. That's the best indicators I can get because of the betrayal. The betrayal of MAGA and American people that voted for him. Again, we'll see, like, Trump has a very low approval rating. Yes, Israeli Zionist supporters, they yeah, because they like killing people. You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. So they support them, but everybody else, like America, true America First people, are not happy. Uh, and there is no brave law enforcement or military that's going to save the day here. If you have one guy in the entire U.S. fucking armed forces decides to, say no, I'm not going to go along, I'm not going to command this ship and do piracy. You know what I mean? Like, it's, you know, look, the Nuremberg trials were designed so that when you say, I was just following orders, look, half those people on the ships, all those people that were, all those special forces guys dropping, well, it's not my place to question orders. Yes, it is. Your Constitution says it is, and you violated that. So when I hear, I believe in the Constitution, you got all these active duty military guys. I believe in America first and the Constitution. No, you don't. No, you don't. You believe in globalism. You believe in, the global mob bosses fighting. You are a tyrant, the same as them. That's my lecture for you. Yeah, do better. Do better. Like this idea, if our law enforcement and our military can't uphold rule of law, we will not have any rule of law. So how are you better than the corruption in South America? You know what I mean? Disgusting. It's disgusting. It really is. But anyway, but yeah, so if you can collapse Canada, say Saskatchewan's potash mines and Alberta oil, well, what has to happen is, like, you always hear Albertans go on about how Ottawa's fucking them over, but they really got to start looking over at EB there in British Columbia. Now, I'm not saying British Columbia shouldn't have the right to, decide what travels through pipelines and stuff like that. But what I'm also saying too is they should understand at this stage of the game, look, we have to take a little bit of risk here. We'll do it as safely as possible. No, these native groups that are standing in front of the pipelines and stuff like that, no, they're not real native groups. They're U.S.-backed Tides Foundation stuff, right? It's basically to stand in front of our resources. This has been going on for decades. It's not new. What we have to do now is nationalize. It means, okay, yeah, we have to build pipelines on the taxpayers' dime. Most of the pipelines up here, Poilievre complains about not getting built. It's not because Ottawa's standing in the way of these pipelines. It's because the people who build the pipeline saying it's not viable. We're not going to make enough money on it. But we have to, so either the taxpayer bankrolls the pipeline, which for critical infrastructure, I think a pipeline east, a pipeline west, yes, Quebec is standing in the way of progress, but Ontario might not. You know what I mean? If we can get pipelines to the St. Lawrence Seaway, and maybe if we could ever get anything, like if we can ever get, like we have a right-wing government here in Quebec, but like we need to have a nationalist government that, not a sovereignty Quebec government, because you have to understand the sovereignty issue in Quebec is basically Canada's holding us back. That's why we want to separate. But basically, no, it's Quebec holding itself back from developing its own resources and cooperating with other countries, which would benefit us so much. For what we would pay for a pipeline to get those pipelines to the East Coast and the West Coast, we could supply Europe with our oil. But we have to do two things: pipelines and refineries. But we can't do the refineries easily. Why? Because of OPEC. One of the things when Pierre-Elliott Trudeau signed us up onto OPEC, Canada agreed that it would limit the amount of refineries it built. Hence why we built our fucking refinery in Texas, right? And that's why I'm not for the Keystone Pipeline. It'll benefit the Americans, benefit us a little bit too, but all that cost, I'd rather put it into a refinery so we don't have to send our oil down to Texas to get refined to come back up. So right now I think we have two refineries in the east, one or two in New Brunswick, and I don't know how many we have out west. But we need to be completely self-sufficient from the Americans. Because when they attack us, the first thing they're going to go after is the oil. But to take us down economically, they have to, like, we have all these resources that we haven't developed our supply chains yet to get them to market.
This is the race that I say Carney is in, and it's basically, can we outrun the collapse of the United States? So the Canadian economy is still bouncing along like a Super Bowl. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. So we have good, bad, and gamble versus the American economy, which, yes, where it's skyrocketing in GDP numbers, you got to take that with a grain of salt because the U.S. economy is actually doing extremely bad. The stakeholder capitalists are doing well. Wall Street's doing fine, but that's not, like the GDP is coming from the data centers. Like 92% of the U.S. GDP is coming from these data centers, right? And it's not because the data centers are making money; it's because they cost a lot to build, and the 1,200 data centers, and that's how dismal the economy is becoming in the States. They're in an extreme crisis. And Trump has made things so much worse. The only way out is through. Again, I don't know who would be on Trump's side at this point. Oh, yeah, but if Kamala Harris would have got in, it would be so much worse. Okay, it would be bad under Kamala Harris, but how could it possibly be worse? Like, there's no way she would have done a fucking blanket tariff against the world. There's no way she'd be attacking Venezuela. She'd be attacking Iran, but Trump is going to attack Venezuela, Iran, Cuba, most likely, Greenland, us. You know what I mean? Like it's fucking insane what's going on. So what we need to do here in Canada is really build up our air defenses. We're already in the process of that, but we can't use American stuff anymore. This whole like F-35 versus soft gripping deal. I'm not so look warships, tanks, um, what do you call it? Fighter jets. They're important. They are, right? But I think stopgap would be better. I think what's more important is that we have submarines, extremely long range torpedoes, hypersonic missiles, gazillion drones of every type, anti drone technology, and air defense, air defense, air defense, air defense, air defense, anti shipping and air defense. That said, I do believe the Venezuelans are going to get even. I don't know how many submarines they have, but I'm sure that they have torpedoes. You are about to see a U.S. aircraft carrier probably get lost in a carrier group. It will happen. Now, will it be the Cubans sinking these aircraft carriers? I don't know. Maybe. There's a lot of Kylo subs in South America. Chile has some. They have Scorpion subs. If the Scorpion, those 3 Scorpion subs, Chile decides to do that, side with Venezuela. Again, we'll see how, like right now, parts of the Venezuelan military are calling for action that we're going to have to defend Venezuela. I don't even think Maduro would think that this could happen to him, right? Hence why, like, again, you see all these crowds of people that that are happy that he got overthrown. Take that with a grain of salt because most of those have been disproved as fake news. That's why you don't report on stuff right away, right? Because it's like 90% of it's propaganda, and they know most people will just look at it and dismiss it and say, oh, yeah, okay, the Venezuelans are happy, we did a good thing. No, it's a mixed bag. You're about to see like a lot of violence in Caracas, like an extreme amount. This is not going to go over well. Again, how many loyalists did Maduro have? And if he had loyalists in the military, they are going to kill every fucking guy that fucking betrayed, because they're going to know who did it, right? They're going to know who did it. The other thing is that this whole idea of cutting off Alberta, right, just to stick it to Canada, the idea is this, that if they can get Albertans mad because they lost all the oil sales to the United States, and then, of course, everybody in the country mad because the United States seizes the refinery in Texas from us and says, you can't refine your oil here anymore. And suddenly we have massive, like, we're going to have oil shortages no matter what, no matter how much oil there is in the world. We're going to have oil. There's an endless supply of oil in the world, despite peak oil. There's no such thing as peak oil. Like they've been talking about peak oil for like 50 years of my life. There's no such thing as peak oil. They keep finding more and more and more. And like again, the value of Venezuelans' oil is like they got more oil than Saudi Arabia, right? Now, mind you, it's harder oil, it's heavy oil, but it's heavy crude. like what we have. So it's not the easy oil's hard to get, but the stuff way down there, it's still there. So the idea to get that oil to the United States so that Trump can just steal all that oil and make the United States independent. The problem with that is simple. Okay, like when Biden basically what he did to lower oil or keep gas prices lower was he tapped into the strategic reserve. Right? He basically pretty much emptied it. Right? And this is what Trump is dealing with now. So he's going to use that oil from Venezuela to fill the reserves, right? So they can go and fight as many wars as Israel needs. But the problem is you got to get that oil from Venezuela to the coast, onto the ships, to the refinery without incident. Good luck. If you're going to see like U.S. oil freighters and tankers basically getting torpedoed, or like these speedboats that the U.S. Navy is blowing out of the water are going to be probably armed with anti-shipping missiles fairly soon. You're going to see a U.S. Navy, Coast Guard, or U.S. Navy try to land a helicopter on a, probably like a Cuban freighter or something like that, only to be met with like special forces guys, whatever. So you're going to see a lot of freighters getting destroyed. So the U.S. Navy is going to just go around like just killing people. Again, because the U.S. has a pirate navy. It doesn't have a constitutional navy right now. It's a pirate navy. They're just, King Trump said, go kill people. We're going to go kill people. These soldiers and sailors, they don't believe in the Constitution or human rights or anything like that. They're clearly against it, or they wouldn't be doing this. Like anybody can see what they've done is wrong. We're going to shoot a boat out of the water, and when the guys are clinging to what's the wreckage for their dear lives, we're going to go back and finish them off. That's piracy. And that's crimes against humanity. And like if any other nation did this, everybody would be saying the same thing. If you saw the Iranians go out and shoot like little speedboats, okay, and then they go back and there's still some survivors that want to go back and shoot them, you would call them fucking tyrants. You know what I mean? So when Trump's out there telling the Iranians, don't you be tyrants to those protesters, or we're gonna, again, pretext, right? They just want, like, Trump is a neocon. He just wants to go to war. But getting back to the Venezuelan thing, the rub is going to be like this. Trump is going to overplay his hand. It's like, okay, Canada has no cards. We can now destroy the Alberta oil sands. And the idea is that Alberta will be so upset that Ottawa fucked up and didn't make. Why can't we make a deal? Why can't Carney make a deal with Trump? There's no deal to be made. Carney knows this. He understands. That's why, like, he put out a very mild statement over this, talking about international law, but not enough to trigger a tirade from fucking Trump, right? I don't know what the hell Pierre was thinking. Okay, let's find a way to make sure nobody votes for the Conservative Party again. Yeah, let's go out and fucking endorse, like basically piracy and, like kidnapping and, and then another illegal war. So that's it for the Conservative Party in Canada because of one dumb tweet from, like Pierre should have just, he should have been way more diplomatic about it. Like he's too smart to be doing stupid stuff like that. I'm very disappointed in Pierre. Like, this. But that's what happens when you get neocons, right? Very disappointed in Pierre. Like even Carney's smart enough to know don't go hyperbolic on. Even Starmer, I hate Starmer with a passion, was out there talking about, look, international law, we'll see where it goes. I don't want to jump on anything. He's smart enough to save his own ass. You know what I mean? But he was very clear. Britain was not in on this at all. He was very staunch on that. We were not involved in this at all. Now, were they not? Who knows, right? We're talking spooks, intelligence agencies, no good guys anywhere. Not here in Canada, not in the States, not in the UK. These people are the fucking reason why our world is so shitty with all this war and shit. Because they're the ones that make the drug runners happen. They're the ones that make the human trafficking happen. They keep it all going. Again, no good guys. And I think most people are really coming out of the ether of that. Now, I feel bad for the Venezuelans because of what they're about to experience. We saw the same thing in Iraq. After the fall of Saddam, did it get better? No. You just end up losing 1.5 million Iraqis. So the Venezuelans, I pray for them. They don't deserve this. Sure, Maduro was a bad guy. He was a love him or hate it guy, whatever. But that was their problem, not our problem. We shouldn't have intervened whatsoever. Nation building is the bane of all evil. It really is. And it's not about women and children and democracy. It's about stealing the oil. To put Alberta out of business is one part. To stick it to China, to go against the BRICS nations, to get the oil prices fluctuating to harm Russia and Iran. That's what it's about. And to supply Israel. That's what it's about. Anglo-American Empire versus Eurasian Pacific Empire. It's not about we're removing a dictator. Again, Kim Jong-un's there. Why don't you go after him? Oh, the fucker's got nukes. That's why you don't go after him. See what happens if you do. You know what I mean? Yes, North Korea can hit the United States with nuclear missiles. You know what I mean? Like they do have ICBMs. And that's what this shows. That because of this kind of idiocracy, like if Trump thinks that all people in Alberta, like when he collapses the Albertan oil or the Saskatchewan potash mines, whatever, that they're going to say, well, we're going to blame Carney because he didn't make a deal with Trump. No, it's going to backfire. Right now, about 80 to 90% of Canadians hate Trump with a passion. And rightfully so. Like, I mean, the man's like attacked this entire, like Trump hates Canada, so the feeling's mutual. But Canadians don't hate Americans, but there's so many Americans that are on board with what's going on that it's very concerning. The good news is most Americans, whether they're on the left or the right, are against what Trump is doing. It seems like, everybody's, the entire of the American population is for what Trump's doing, but it's not. It's really not. That's just the propaganda. Once you read through the propaganda, most Americans are good people. They do not want this war. They did not want regime change. They're worried about fucking the price of gas and tomatoes and paying their hydro bill, not about what some dictator in another country is doing with his oil supply. You know what I mean? Like that's at least Trump said it, the quiet part out loud. It's like with Iraq, they took months to build it up. A year to build up. Oh, Saddam is this bad guy who was put in there by the CIA to begin with in 1948. But the worst. I think Henry Kissinger, who I hope is burning in hell, he was a smart man. One thing he did say: the worst thing that could ever happen to you is not to be America's enemy, but to be their friend. And he was right. Like one thing about Henry Kissinger, he understood how the game was played. He did. He was very instrumental in it. Him, George Soros, guys like that, they understand this thing. There's no difference between George Soros and Trump at this point. It's just Trump uses the military. George Soros uses the banking system to destroy people. Evil. Pure fucking evil. And where are all the MAGA people? You see it every time with Israel. Every time Israel does like crimes against humanity. Oh, well, it's because, don't justify it. Stick to your guns. Hold yourself morally accountable. Because if not, there's no benefit. There's no benefit long term in these type of regime change policies. And eventually there's going to be regime change in the United States. Yes, you are going to have a military coup in the United States. It's going to be a small one. Will it be successful? Will it not be? I don't know. But it will be a U.S. veterans, or a group of veterans that are going to assassinate the Trump administration. When I said back in 2009 that the future of the world elites was Muammar Gaddafi, this is why, because I knew what I saw in 2009 was going to lead to the shit we see and stuff we couldn't even imagine, right? Like how many predictions do we have to get right before you can say, okay, it's not predictions, it's a pattern. You know what I mean? Why do you think I'm right 85% of the time? And I get it all the time. Oh, Reg, you're wrong. It's this. He's going after the deep state. He's just the other side of the coin. Like mob bosses fighting. If you can really understand the concept of mob bosses fighting, the world makes so much more sense. And this is why you get all this contradictory stuff, because it's not. It's basically, this is our guy, that's not our guy. And this leader, it's a madness of kings. Everybody wants to sit in that New World Order chair, but it's a bloody chair to sit in. I've been saying this since 2012. They will kill each other to sit in that chair. So, or kidnap the guy and his wife. This just fucking blows my mind. It's so crazy. Like, you couldn't even write a fucking Hollywood movie like that. Like, I swear to God. It's so bizarre. But yeah, the fallout from this right now, everybody's in the Trump administration are sucking each other's dicks. But, and look at how successful it was. When the attacks start coming, who are you going to blame? The people that are getting even? Sure, to a degree. But are you not going to look at it and say, well, we reap what we sow? The Venezuelans are going to get even with Trump and his administration. And again, this could be like a smoking aces kind of scenario where maybe it's like, okay, who's going to kill Trump? The Cubans, the Iranians, the Russians, the Chinese, the Venezuelans, the MAGA people that are so pissed off, the radical left that's so pissed off. Like, this guy has so many enemies right now. And the thing is, it'd be different if he was doing the right thing. Like, what happened to Make America First? What happened to non-interventionism? You know what I mean? And again, have we seen a single deep state person go to jail? The whole Q and the Patriots bullshit. Arrests are coming. Oh yeah, well, I can imagine all the Charlie Wards and the X-22 report. They're probably out there just go. I haven't watched those guys in a while, but I caught on to their bullshit a long time ago. It's like, oh well, no, we have to take this guy out because this is us winning. No, it's not. You could Look, if you were chasing down the drug boats, okay, capturing them, seizing the evidence, taking these guys into court, custody, and whatever, and arresting them. If you have the death penalty, say, hey, you're an extreme drug trafficker, we're going to execute you. People be on board with that. Pull a Duterte, fine. Or what's the guy in the Singapore there? You do drugs here. We're gonna. If you're a drug dealer here, you're dead. You'll get your day in court, but we will fucking hang you. That's what we have to start doing. But we have to also do it to these deep state pirates who are not. There's no deep state. It's all openly admitted stuff. Like everybody's on display. Here we're gonna just violate not only international law on the high seas, and and illegal acts of war, crimes against humanity against a sovereign country. But we're also going to break our own laws. We're not even going to get the congressional approval to do this, right? At least that, like, Trump could have at least done that to make, if you're going to bullshit about it, like, no, we're just going to do it because, we don't believe in the legal system anymore. So welcome to vigilante justice. Here we go. Thank you, Mr. Trump. Like, I get it. There's a lot of problems in the legal system and the lawfare and stuff like that. But that could be solved a lot easier. Like, look, you have all these Somalians in the States, and it's the same all over the world. Like every place that it will investigate. The Somalian communities, I'm not bashing on all of them, but yeah, they are very corrupt. They have all kinds of welfare scams and stuff like that. With the school thing, people are now showing up at the schools saying, is there any kids here? And there's no kids there. Well, where's all this money going? Well, it's going back to your warlords and stuff like that in the African countries, right? But we're not going to hold anybody to account because the radical left, right? And, because that would be considered racism. But no, how about we just uphold rule of law? Okay, you came here illegally? Yeah, you're going to go to jail. You came here legally, you're on our welfare system. How about you do work fair? You know what I mean? Or go home. You know what I mean? It's time to do the right thing. Yes, it's going to be hard things. But the right thing to do is definitely not attacking sovereign nations to steal their oil just because it works out geopolitically for you to a degree. But you have to understand, with the loyalists left in Venezuela, something to really consider is that how many Americans are going to die trying to protect that oil? Is it going to be the same amount of Americans dying that were protecting the opium fields in Afghanistan? Oh, yeah. Remember when the veterans were bitching about that? Now, one thing I cut slack for the Afghanistan veterans is that this was really like 1991 Desert Storm, right? The internet wasn't even born yet, right? So you only had TV to go by and weapons of mass destruction and stuff like that. By 2002, okay, you've got the internet, but like you don't have social media like you have now. Like Facebook wasn't there. I think MySpace might have been around, but it wasn't. You know, like you couldn't get this kind of you couldn't find out everything in like 2 minutes after it happened globally. You know what I mean? Uh, 1995 is when you get the internet, but you know, like you don't really get YouTube until 2007, right? Or whatever it was. And that's even at that, you know, it's still in its infancy. But by the time you get to like 2014 and stuff like that, you can find stuff out on the world. 2010 to 2014, you can find out just about anything in the world. And now it's like almost instantaneous. You know, something happens, bang, it's on social media right away. So the thing is that you could cut the veterans some slack when there was just no way for them to really figure out what was really going on. That you know, it was just about the big corporations, you know, ripping the resources out of Iraq due to regime change to steal their oil. But what the Saddam effect might take place in Venezuela. And what's that? Well, it's simple. You want to come and steal our oil, that's fine, but we'll light the oil fields on fire. You know, the Venezuelans could do the exact same thing. If we can't have it, nobody can, right? Oh, you got a freighter? Oh, yeah, bang, it gets a torpedo on the side from somewhere. Or a cruise missile. Again, I do believe you're about to see the Iranians, the North Koreans, and the Chinese smuggle, and the Russians smuggle tons of fucking weapons into South America through other countries that will then bleed it into, you know, air defense systems and crew, particularly the Houthis. I think the Houthis are going to probably get a manufacturing boost in cruise missiles for anti-shipping. And when we see the next attack, which will probably be Iran or Cuba, is my, you know, because you have to understand, like Marco Rubio and the Cuban faction and all that, like these guys, they're again like the Israeli lobby. You know what I mean? It's all these. This is why you should not be allowed to have foreigners serve in your government at high levels, like in bureaucratic or anything like that, or dual citizens. No dual citizens. That should be, no other countries in the world allow this, right? This is why we're so beholden to all these other fucking countries. But anyway, I do believe that we're going to see a lot of industrial accidents in the next coming weeks. A lot of power outages, a lot of terrorist attacks. It will be, you know, it'll just be basically sabotage everywhere in retaliation. So whatever money you were going to make off that oil, you're going to lose it, you know, with derailed trains and stuff like that. Who's going to do it? Again, smoking aces, you know, plot here. Is it the North Koreans? Is it the Iranians? Is it the, you know, the Israeli Mossad just, you know, looking, oh, we got to kill people so that we get sympathy? You know, is it the, you know, the Antifa? Is it the MAGA people gone, you know, like getting, you know, like knocking people? Again, I called this prediction that you're going to see an uptick in assassinations, especially on prominent people. So that check, Putin's pretty prominent. We can count him as that, you know, as one for sure. But yeah, Trump, the next assassination attempt on Trump, it's not just going to be him. It's going to, you're going to see the hellhounds, as I call them, come out and start clearing house. Some of them are going to be active. A lot of them are going to be active duty law enforcement. We're never going to know who they are, but because they know who all the corrupt judges and lawyers are, they know who all the corrupt politicians are. Like they know, right? And it's just, and we already saw a peak of it. Something that I said would happen. It happened just before I got the prediction out. But like I said, look, all these, you're going to start to see people go rogue. You're going to see rogue patriots or whatever. So when a file comes out that's supposed to be redacted, it doesn't get redacted, such as happened with the Epstein thing, which again, look, Epstein and Trump knew each other extremely well. That there's no way, I'm not saying Trump diddled kids, but it's not looking good. Ivana Trump and Elaine Maxwell or driving around recruiting young women for their modeling agencies and probably Epstein Island as well. And the thing is that like people are sick and tired of that. We like the emperor has no clothes. So whoever put out the redaction of the Epstein files again, what they did is they did it in such a way that they put out the redaction, but when you uploaded the file, they didn't get rid of the underlining text, so people were able to see the whole file, right? So now pretty much everything's out in the open. And what we found out is that, there's a lot of emails between, Elaine Maxwell and Ivana and stuff like that. So Trump knows. Now, that said, speaking of Epstein, I guess I'll maybe finish up on this, but New Year's Eve, there's an island in the Caribbean or whatever, and it was like there was something like 172 like mega yachts there of all the rich and powerful. Like if there was ever a place, I'm not calling for it, but I'm saying if there was ever a place where cruise missiles could have like ended a lot of problems in the world, that would have been that. You mean they're all bunched together? Yeah, there we go. But that island's like a hop, skip, and a jump from the Epstein Island. Like, and it's every single fucking time. You know what I mean? So yeah, you're going to get a pitchfork revolution. People are sick and tired of the corruption, and they're sick and tired of being betrayed by all these people. They get elected on telling you what you want to hear, but then it's like they're just beholden to all this, Mr. Global money, right? We invested in this, therefore you go attack that country on our behalf so we can steal the resources. So anyway, that's where we're at. It's crazy. Again, I can't believe people are still on the Trump train at this point. Look, he was supposed to be the good guy. I get that. But just ask, what did you vote for? And is he doing that? You know what I mean? Don't double down. Don't use cognitive dissonance. Be intellectually honest. Do you really support more regime change wars? Not the, oh, well, yeah, but he was a dictator. They're all fucking dictators. You know what I mean? Where does it stop? Where does it stop? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it's unbelievable. So, yes, you're going to see retaliations. You're going to see mass protests everywhere. It's about to get very rough in the States. But if Trump's willing to do this, maybe Steve Bannon is right that Trump is going to be in office in 2028. So my hunch is that what he's going to do is, with the unrest in the United States, is going to use that to suspend the Constitution so that he can basically stay in power. He's going to pull a Zelensky is what he's going to do. This is not going to go well. So no, the Venezuelan oil, there's not like you could put there's not the U.S. military isn't advanced enough to be able to protect that. The saboteurs will only have to get lucky once. If they get lucky twice a week with a drone or a mortar or whatever, or RPG, whatever, it will stop production. You sink a freighter, you can't just replace that freighter overnight. You know what I mean? Yes, there's going to be a lot of ecological disasters. Again, refinery fires, it's going to be everywhere. So whether you agree with me, disagree with me, or agree to disagree with me, just go look at what I'm talking about. And again, I'm pretty much, this is the stuff that's happening. But what I would tell you is prepare. Again, 2026, if there was a year to prepare, stock up on food, medications, whatever you're going to need. You could be living in the dark for a little while these saboteur attacks that are about to happen in retaliation. Again, from which country? From which country, right? Unbelievable. Hopefully up here in Canada, our military is on notice. And it's like, okay, we got to start planning on how we're going to defend the country against the United States. Yeah, we don't want to get Ukraine, right? The United States can't win a war against us. It's impossible. Canada is an impossible country to attack successfully. Air power can't win a war. Boots on the ground, like the Americans only have a 4 million man army. Yes, our army's not that big, but when you just add the like if you look at the numbers in Ukraine, okay, yes, the Russians are clearly winning, but at what cost? Would the Americans be able to stomach 1 million men lost? And the Ukraine is probably the easiest country in the world to invade because it's pretty much, the southern part of it is pretty much all flat farmland, right? And that's almost impossible. Even with the drones and the thermal imaging and all that stuff, high-tech American technology. The Russians have what's fairly equivalent. And even at that, in the middle of the winter, where it's the easiest to track stuff, um, and the leaves have no, the trees have no leaves on them. Even at that, it's almost impossible, even with the thermal imaging and all that, to find the Ukrainians dug into a tree line. It's hard to find them. You know, it takes hours and hours and hours and hours to find these guys. You know, it's and that's what they have now. We're better off than what the Ukraine is technology wise. You don't want to attack Canada. You know, like we're not the most powerful military in the world for sure, size wise. But we're still like at number 17 technology or something like that, and advancing. At one point, we were like way up there. You know, so again, if there's a group of people you don't want to fight in the north, in the Arctic or whatever, it's Canadians. We're the best at it. We're simply the best at it. Yeah, so I think hopefully, I think one thing about Carney is that he does seem to be able to, he does seem to know what Trump's motivations are. Whatever he doesn't, they don't. These men don't like each other, and nor do I like either of these men. But he does seem to be okay. How do I quietly get around Trump? But mobilization, like okay, we've got 900 lavs. Okay, we better start putting maybe take that 25 millimeter cannon off of it and put on some 35 millimeter or Bofors 40s like the Swedes have. And maybe we need to put a lot of ADATs on the top of these suckers. If we had about 260 of those, we could have 20 per province. That would make air denial more possible, and then maybe get some Taurus missile systems from Germany. I think we need to do that. You know, maybe Carney can kind of fuck off with the giving all our military equipment to the Ukraine. We're going to need some, right? Maybe we should stockpile some stopgap tanks. We got Leopards. Get some more 2A6s, get a few hundred of those at least. We need about 2,600 tanks to be able to rival the Americans from a defensive posture. But if we went 1-to-1 with the Americans, they would lose every armored vehicle they had. But what I'm saying is, of the maybe 15,000 armored vehicles, including tanks, that the Americans have, and APCs and stuff like that, we could build about 150,000 drones and anti-tank shoulder-fired weapons. The NLAW anti-tank weapon, maybe we start manufacturing those. We're already doing the light air defense stuff. We could have that all spread out through all the country. Again, like the Finland strategy and basically the Nordic model. Like just have a choke point everywhere and a rapid plan that, okay, if we're ever invaded, be there, kill them in the choke points, right? Kill them in the open ground, kill them in the choke points. The best thing that would happen is the underestimation of the Canadian military. Yes, there's a lot of problems with the Canadian military. I know there's the woke problem and all that. But the guys that know how to fight know how to fight. They know how to set up an ambush. Canadians are legendary at setting up ambushes. The best thing we could hope for is to see like 150 Abrams tanks, going in the open plains. That would be just a fucking turkey shoot. Tanks can't travel fast. It's not a mechanical issue. It's you come out of the tree line, you get whacked by a $200 drone, and it takes out your $40 million tank. That's the problem that the Ukrainians are dealing with. That's the problems the Russians are dealing with, right? So tank superiority is not really superiority anymore. Numerical superiority is not. Again, every command post could be taken out by like artillery is still. It's World War I rules. It's like trenches, and it's trench warfare. In tubed artillery warfare with cybernetic drone warfare that are basically flying into the trenches and killing people. The only question is who can destroy whose infrastructure faster. And then I would add a third element, like next to cruise missiles. I think the Iranian strategy is a really good strategy. Probably, I'm sure they have at least 500,000 rockets by now. But long-range rockets that can hit anywhere in the United States, for example. Not that I want this, but if we had to, you could probably do a barrage of about 40,000 rockets in one night. take out all the Lockheed Martin stuff, take out every oil reserve, take out every air base, just hit them all in one night. Yes, they could retaliatory with nukes, but that's where the air defenses would have to come in, and you'd have to be ready to shoot the stuff out on launch, right? So as soon as you detect the launch, you start launching yourself, and just hit them all in one night. But you got to start building that shit up now. Now the other thing for coastal defense, we're already building the sea sectors. It just we're gonna have probably about at least if you could overwhelm odds of say 100 missiles per ship. 25,000 or 26,000 cruise missiles would destroy the U.S. Navy, and then you could have probably say like 10 torpedoes per ship, but extremely long-range drone torpedoes. That's the wave of the future. It's quicker to build than the submarines, and okay, maybe it can only be coastal defense, but the thing is the U.S. Navy would have to be at least 500 nautical miles off the coast in order to launch anything, which would give our air defenses early warning, while we could just whack them with these long-range torpedoes that they would not, coming at them at 60 knots or whatever. Nothing would be able to outrun them. And then you could use them remotely at the very last stage of their terminal phase in conjunction with homing and like that you normally have. But you can make them as analog as possible so that you could actually guide them right into the side of the ships. Yes, it'd be a huge loss of life, but it would take away their ability to wage war almost overnight. Canada already builds the Mark 48. Okay, well, perhaps rather than having a 20-foot long or an 18-foot long torpedo, make it 36 feet long and add extra range to it, and maybe an extra, extra 100 pounds of TNT explosive in there. One good hit takes out an aircraft carrier. There you go. That's what you need. That's what you need until we can get our submarines and all that. Other than that, get stopgap aircrafts. There's enough fighter jets out there that even if they're not state of the art, they could be utilized well enough that you could have like a plane for plane Air Force. You don't have to fly them all at the same time, but you could have like a whole bunch of F-4 Phantoms with long, adapted for like the Meteor missiles, okay, and you can use even ground radar to guide it if you had to, as stopgap, and just have, if we could have, I've already like tracked down the aircraft worldwide. What's left? Like you can have maybe about 500 Mirages. You could have about 300 Harriers. You could have about 400 to 800 F-4 Phantoms. MiG-21s is no problem getting those, but you'd have to use them again, they carry the missile, they launch, carry the missile, and they fire the missile, and the ground crews guide the missile. A modern missile. So you're just using the aircraft as a launch platform, not to engage directly into the enemy in dogfights and stuff like that. You could get Mirage 2000s, you get a few of those, get a couple of SOP Gripens, you can get a couple of whatever, until you can build a new Air Force. And I think our next airplane is probably not going to be the SOP Gripen or the F-35. I think it's going to be a Avro Aero 2.0, because it's the only thing we're going to be able to get built without international problems such as Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, whatever. This is the problem we have with the Gripen, is it has a General Electric engine in it. And Rolls-Royce, that's just rumors that you're hearing like Rolls-Royce is not actually building engines for the SOP Gripen. That they talked about it, but there's no, that's not happening. Now, mind you, that could happen. What I'm thinking is that maybe Bombardier has to design its own engine so it can buy the airframes or build the airframes from the SOP Gripen if we were going to go with that route. But the problem is the United States could still veto the sales of the SOP Gripen because it uses U.S. technology. So we either have to go with BAE Systems, Saab Systems, or not Leonardo Systems. What's the French one? Dassault. Basically, I think France, if we bought stuff from France, that would make the Rafale would be probably a better choice in a lot of ways than the SOP Gripen. They're already under construction. Yeah, we'll do the same deal maybe. But the thing is it's all French. They're 100% made in France. So we get the deal with France where, okay, well, we're going to tool up here and we're going to build it ourselves, 100% supply chain. France is very smart about how they're doing their weapons industry. They don't rely on any other nation whatsoever. That's too much. We now know why that's a liability. We could do this with Germany with Rheinmetall. Problem with Rheinmetall is they're completely intertwined with Raytheon, right? But the thing is that Saab is independent of NATO, so to speak. There are issues with Saab because they're not as big. But like, for example, what I say is just like, okay, buy everything, buy every design that works together, buy all the CV90 stuff, buy all the or buy all the Rheinmetall stuff, whatever it is. Build it all here, so it's like, okay, well, we don't have to make this system work with that system, with that system. You know what I mean? At first, okay, get the numbers up. Get about 2,600 tanks of old Leopards, Leopard 1s, Leopard 2s, 2A4s, fill in the ranks, you know what I mean? And just have it, you know what I mean? And then start manufacturing the ammo for it, do the stopgap training, have reserves everywhere. Again, you don't have to run every tank every day, but have, you know, at least a 4-to-1 tank crew, 5-to-1 pilot ratio, whatever. Have 2,600 fighter jets. You don't necessarily need heavy bombers, and just start buy the older weaponry first, and then upgrade the software. You know, okay, while you're tooling up, because it'll take a couple of years to tool up to build your own stuff, and then you phase it out over time. But at least then you have numbers, right? And this could work. And the stuff that we can build now, like the Manpad launchers, Canada's like one of the number one builder of Manpad launchers. So, like, again, short range air defense systems. We could have this all over the country in stockpiles. You know, have a garrison in every city so that if we're ever attacked or the United States decides to kidnap our dignitaries, you know, we can shoot down the helicopters. Again, I hate to have to say it like that, and I know it sounds like I'm being anti-American, but it's like, it's not anti-American, it's anti-American regime and world hegemony that basically, you know, like, they're not the good guys. I'm not saying China's the good guys, you know, but what I'm saying is when the United States decides to go to war with the planet, it's like, you got to kind of get ready for the defense of that. The easiest thing, for example, the conscripts that Carney's talking about, at first they went after the government workers. They're like, we're going to like recruit people from the government work. And this is the way the progressives think, right? That government workers are mostly left wing, so we don't have to give guns to right wingers. We'll get the left wing people to have the entitled government workers. But you don't understand government workers. Sorry if you work in the government, but they're lazy by nature. These are people that want to sit at a desk. They don't want to be fucking running around, with heavy fucking gear on. These people want to sit inside, out of the weather, I've worked in government buildings. These are lazy people. These are people that don't even like to do stuff at home. You know what I mean? It's maybe not all of them, but I'm pretty sure if you were to poll it, That said, the no-brainer of apparently we've dropped from 2 million legal gun owners down to 1.5 million. What I'm thinking is people just probably let their license expire and hid their guns. But right there's a conscript army, and almost every gun owner, the most law-abiding people, gun owners are 3 times less likely in Canada, or 3 times less likely to break the law than a normal citizen, and about half as likely to break the law than a police officer. Okay, so if you're intellectually honest, and Carney, if he could use that thing between his ears and say, okay, let's get rid of the gun grab thing, okay, we'll put that into the 1 week training. I think it should be 3 weeks training, and a lot of military guys are like Scott Taylor's like, well, they're not even going to get uniforms. I'm like, I don't care about uniforms. I want bullets. I want bullets. I want the Swiss model. I want to be able to go to a gun range once a week and fire off 100 rounds in running and gunning. Canadians would sign up in droves. You would have a 4 million man conscript army overnight with gun safety course, number one. And if you started with the people that already had their possession acquisition license, like myself, we take a civic course of how to, back up the military. Yes, you'll learn sandbagging. You'll learn, natural disaster relief, first aid, all that good stuff. And like how the military functions and operates. This is why I say it should be a 3 week course. It'd be similar to what they do with the 3rd Canadian Rangers. And then you get firearms training, right? And then you get, 1 weekend a month for say a year, and then for 3 years you say do training one weekend every 3 months for a recap or whatever courses you want to sign up for, at least 1 weekend a month, like the reservists do. And you get to learn how to use a mortar. You get to learn how to use a shoulder-fired anti-tank weapon. You get to learn how to use a stinger, all the light arms, the machine gun, everything like that. You take those courses. Maybe you go out on a week course if you qualify. You know what I mean? And you do that, you'll get all these reservists that it's like, okay, the U.S. came in, airstriked all our air bases, killed everybody, but we have 2,600 tanks scattered around the country. Okay, well, reservist, you're it. Okay, I already took a 2-week training on the tank. Okay, might not be the best tank crew ever, but at least we can get the thing to function. You say, that would never work. That would work brilliantly. Because after about 5 years, you would have probably an 8 million man army. And everybody would have, the law which should be you have to have a minimum of 100 rounds for at least one rifle in your house, no matter what the rifle is. And you would issue them a service rifle. For the conscripts, I would do 2 rifles. I would do a bolt action rifle, 18-inch bull barrel, something that, and it's maybe 6.5 Creedmoor or 308. Probably 6.5 Creedmoor because a little less kick to it, and it would help out on the female stuff like that. You issue them a rifle with a synthetic stock that can work in the Arctic if it needs to, a strap, cleaning kit, bull barrel, 10-round magazine, 3 10-round magazines. We'll make it 4. 4 10-round magazines in bandolier. Okay. And a scope, say a fixed 10 power. Doesn't have to be super fancy. And you teach them, how to sight in the scope, a bore sighter. And you go from there. And they keep this at home, kind of like the Swiss model. That would be the best defense Canada could have. Because there's already a gun behind every blade of grass here. A lot of people don't. Again, Americans think we don't have any guns at all. Like all the people, like there's God knows how many, there's a couple of million semi-automatics here. A lot of them are AR-15s and SKSs and stuff like that. There's probably about 21, at last count, 21 to 24 million firearms in the country that they can figure out. And there's probably double that are unaccounted for. So there's a gun behind every blade of grass. So if the people in Venezuela were armed like us, they could have shot down the helicopters. They could have shot down, they could have defended themselves against the U.S. invasion. Maybe they would lose like 10-1, but it would make it hurt. You know what I mean? It'd make it hurt. Now, try to hold the land. Again, this is a no-brainer. You take your law-abiding citizens that already have the firearms. You already got a 1.5 million that are ready to go with the firearms, right? It's a no-brainer. Ask those people if they want to join. They'd volunteer, but it'd have to be, for Canada only, no deploying overseas or anything like that. It'd have to be a defensive force only. No, okay, in the future, we need more forces, meat for the grinder in the Ukraine or to fight for Israel. We're going to take from that batch. No. Yeah. No. Otherwise, it won't work. But that's what I would do if I was Prime Minister. I'd say, there's no chance of you being drafted, no chance of you being sent overseas, but your duty would be to defend the country. That I would say. Yes, if you take the training, you have to defend the country if we're invaded. It's as simple as that. You learn coastal defense, you learn air defense over time. Again, you could have so many conscripts getting advanced training over time and again, they wouldn't be on the regular dole. You again, in 10 years, you have like half your population, is a fighting force. You got Sparta. You know what I mean? Like you got, picture a regular citizen runs along, just grabs a Stinger missile, shoots down a Black Hawk helicopter, while it's shooting at its citizens. Now you just killed 30 of their men, and because you had the training, you could do that. Or, you're sitting there with your in-law, issued weapon. You take out a Bradley tank, and you just killed 6 guys there, 8 guys there, right? You do this 20 times, 30 times a day, 400 times a day. Trust me, the war ends quickly. You know what I mean? Yeah, you shoot down the aircraft, whatever. You capture the pilots. You make an example of them, a brutal example of them. Yeah, that's what's going to have to be done. You know what I mean? And when that starts happening, Americans are going to be like, why are we in this war in the first place? Good news is there's enough people already saying that now. The problem is when you legitimize the radical left, who's created the conditions for Trump to exist, this is the problem, because there's still that, we got to stick it to the libs, right? To the point where you're getting rid of your own moral high ground of, hey, no, we're anti-war, we're anti-interventionist and stuff like that. And again, Trump is now, it looks like Greenland's going to be next at the, you got this smug cocksucker of ambassador sitting there saying, yeah, here's a Greenland, picture of Greenland in the American flag, and it says soon. Okay, how can you not take that as an act of aggression? When we see, American forces just following orders shooting at Greenland forces, how are you going to justify that? And the thing is I think that's going to turn into a big blunder, though, because when Greenland tells the United States military it has to go home, the military, the Americans are not going to leave, right? And it's going to create turmoil in the States. But this is how it's most likely going to play out. Trump will double down by sending, like I say, 14 to 20,000 troops there. But then, as a show of force, there's going to be, even with a naval blockade, you could have an incident in the Arctic. But the thing is that supplying these guys with food, supplying them with whatever, the Greenlanders can do something about that, right? They could get air defenses in there and shoot down supply ships. Sure, the Americans would probably go in and bomb the shit out of them and just murder all these people. They have no problem. They clearly have no problem doing that, right? Because again, there's no brave law enforcement military. They're just guys that are just following orders for globalist plans. So when they start killing Greenlanders, that's going to be a wake-up call for the Western world that the United States has went rogue. It's now the enemy state of the world. This is what's going to get about 40 to 45 nations, including military action against the United States. The United States cannot defend itself against that. It might be able to defend the homeland, but it won't be able to, you'll lose all your Navy fairly quickly. Submarines, they're hard to find. Even the old Kylo subs are hard to find, you know what I mean? And when you have a volley of 6 to 8 torpedoes in the water, one of them is going to hit. If you get hit by the large torpedoes, especially if they're the French, the Russian ones are pretty reliable, but the French F-21s, if those things are launched at you from a Scorpion sub, goodbye. There's no U.S. warship that's going to take a hit from that. Maybe it takes 4 to 6 torpedoes to take out the aircraft carrier, but one cripples the aircraft carrier. That will kill thousands of people on board just with the one torpedo. 6 torpedoes would probably kill everybody, right? And they only have to get lucky once. You know what I mean? You got to think about what's out there. You know what I mean? The Victoria class subs, yes, the Americans have more subs than just about any other nation except for Russia, maybe North Korea. But the Russians have advanced submarines too. You know what I mean? So how did the world, this idea of the United States being the world's police is, nobody wanted that anymore. The left doesn't want it. Most of the right doesn't want it. It's only a handful of Zionist neocons that want it, right? And again, that's what the fight of the Americas is going to be, which is going to lead to civil conflict. Probably with it by June, you're going to see the beginnings of actual shooting civil war because of the attacks from the left. Starting for sure, the left is always ready to pounce because they haven't lost since the 1960s. They've won every battle. They own the entire system, right? And Trump, rather than doing the right thing, is just doubled down on whatever Zionists want and has kept the neocon system going. So it's going to lead to so many bad things in the States. It already has. It's just the rest of the world is now just quietly going to have to prepare. How do we defend ourselves from the aggression of the United States? They're going to destroy the world economy in the process. So again, stock up on whatever's on the shelf now, no matter how expensive it is, it's on sale. This is what we're up against. I hate it that the country to the south of me that was the shining beacon on the hill for so long has went down this path. Like it really, but the thing is I don't know who comes after Trump, because when they kill Trump, and they're going to at this point, I don't see how they don't at this point. And again, it's most likely going to be a MAGA supporter killing him, a bunch of veterans, or maybe even active duty guys, just because the violations of the Constitution, the violations of international law, the violations of just the betrayal of the Trump administration to its own voting base. Even the left doesn't do that much. You know what I mean? They do it, but not to that degree, to the point where they get their own base want to kill them, right? But that's what Trump is going to do. And the question is, who comes after Trump? Because at that point, it's martial law. The Constitution will be suspended. That's exactly what the world leaders want. If they can get rid of the U.S. Constitution, this will play into China's hand. This will play into the globalist hand. Basically, the idea is to get the United States, and I've been saying this since 2010, if you can get a civil war going, you can get secession movements to the point where the United States basically would break up into 50 some odd little countries, and China could just pick them off over the next 100 years economically, right? It won't work, but that looks like the plan, right? So the fight back, rather than throwing the neocons in jail and the actual deep staters and all these war hawks and all that in jail and all these corrupt people, which Trump was supposed to. Remember when Trump was out there saying Hillary Clinton is a war criminal, we need to lock her up for all these illegal wars and everything? Yeah, what happened to that Trump? You know what I mean? The guy everybody voted for. Nothing, right? Did anybody go to jail? No. As a single deep state bad actor actually went to jail? No. There's been none. Mob bosses fighting. That's it. That's all. And again, it's sad that corruption is the number one order of the day. But maybe humanity has to see this so that we can make sure that it never happens again. Look, every politician in the world has failed its people, bar none. There's no good guys anywhere. I get that. Everybody wants to be a cheerleader. If that guy's bad, that means my guy's good and does no wrong. No, it doesn't work like that. Wish it did, but it doesn't. It's not black and white. It's not complicated, but it's a gray area. It's mob bosses fighting. Putin is just the other mob boss opposing Trump. Trump is just the other mob boss opposing Xi. Xi's just a mob boss opposing, the European Union, et cetera, right? Starmer's just the other mob boss opposing his own people. It's fucking crazy, right? No good guys. But I wish the MAGA people would just wake up a little bit faster. Marjorie Taylor Greene kind of, again, love her, hate her. I don't agree with everything she says, but at least she's consistent. Tulsi Gabbard, I don't think she's dropped the ball yet. I hope she doesn't. She has stayed pretty consistent. Ron Paul, Rand Paul, they've always stayed consistent. But the rest of them, I don't know. We'll see. Again, all these, Elon Musk, again, flips. Oh, suddenly what Trump is doing. It was bad when Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and Joe Biden did it, but it's okay when Trump does it? No. These people are pure fucking evil, including Trump. I don't know how people can't see that now. You're just a Democrat. No, I'm a conservative, guys. I am not. I've called out the left for years. I still do. You know what I mean? But right now, the front stage center problem is the Trump administration. They are gone completely Zionist, insane. They want to kill everybody. It is what it is. Anything else I can cover? I think I covered just about everything. I'm sure there's something I'm forgetting. Again, it's been we're day 5 of 2026. What a hell of a year so far. Can't wait till we're Monday. We're Monday, so I can't wait till see what kind of crazy stuff I'll be reporting on by Friday. Like I said, the first 2 months of 2026 are going to make your head spin. Have I been wrong so far? Are you not entertained? Terrified, but entertaining. All right. Anyway, but guys, whether you're on the left, whether you're on the right, whether you agree with me, disagree with me, please, I beg of you. I know everybody's hurting for cash, but stock up. Go buy rice. Go buy whatever. Put it in jars, mason jars with oxygen absorbers. You need to have at least 2 years worth of food for everybody you know and love in your household, and including yourself. If you need medications, stock up now. I'm not saying be paranoid, but we're in it, guys. Like we're out of time. We're in it. We're in it. Who knows how chaotic the rest of the year is going to be, let alone this Friday is going to be, let alone the end of the year, right? Again, my number one New Year's resolution this year was don't die. Anyway, there we go.